Live with CDP Sports Talk, a weekly sports and entertainment podcast sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet. Live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and LinkedIn. And on audio via Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, Anchor FM, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Radio Public, and TuneIn. Now, here's your host, Chris Palme.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Season 8, Episode 41, overall 426 of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Check out barrycullen.com for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles, or give them a call at 519-824-0210. Tell them Chris Palme sent you. You can email the dealership at info@barrycullen.com. Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show is on radio station WQEE 99.1 FM in Noonan, Georgia, weeknights from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern. Before we talk about our guest today on this, I can't believe it's already, what is it, Tuesday? No, sorry, I'm trying to get the days mixed up. All I know is it's August 26th, Monday, August 26th, 2024. Summer's just flying by. And before we bring on our guest today, guys, check out Future Tech. Future Tech is a store that has one stop for all phone and tablet accessories and repairs at 435 Stone Road Mall in Guelph, Ontario. You can call them at 519-836-5007. Or you can email them futuretech.guelph@gmail.com. So if you're looking for a new phone or you need some help with your phone, great customer service at Future Tech, again at 435 Stone Road in Guelph. I hope everyone's doing well on this Monday, August 26, 2024. Summer is wrapping up here in Ontario, and I'm excited to have my guest on tonight. This is going to be her first time on Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show. Her name is Paula Jane Newman. She's a comedian, actress, MC, host, meditation teacher, a motivational speaker based out of Los Angeles, California, originally from the UK, and I'm excited to have Paula come on. And this is Paula Jane Newman. Hello, Paula. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. I want to say thank you so much for giving me some time out of your busy schedule to come on today.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
How are things in Los Angeles, California right now?
It's too hot.
Same here. It's about 90 degrees here with the humidity.
Ugh.
I'm not a fan of humidity. The older I get, the less I like of humidity.
Yeah, these girls have a life of their own on the East Coast, and with humidity, it's like.
Why do you think I always wear a baseball hat? Anyways, hey, I was going to say you had a busy weekend. You were performing at Dirty Nelly's in Costa Mesa.
It's called Costa Mesa.
Mesa. Okay, Mesa, California. How did that go on Saturday night?
Oh, it had a great set. It was a full house. One of the performers turned 78. So there was a big birthday celebration, and how great to be 78 performing live.
That is amazing. And Paula, a couple of years ago, I had a guest on my show that was 80 years old. Unfortunately, he passed away recently. His name was Marty Ross. He was one of the oldest comedians. He was on my show. And you know what? That's why I love having these shows and having guests, because I hear different stories from everybody. And I'm 52, and I'm just trying to prove to the radio industry that age is just a number, and you can change careers at any point in your life.
Yes, here, absolutely.
So how did the show go? And did you start the show, or were you at the end? Like, when you're a comedian, what do you prefer to start a show?
You know, it depends. Everyone's after that headliner spot, right? So you're the main attraction, as it were, because you get more time. But there's flexibility when you're in the lineup. Usually you're just grateful that you're in a lineup and you get to perform and you get paid for your art. It's a different, if you're first up, everyone basically gives you a pass. Or I do, because you've had the MC come warm you up, but have they really warmed up the crowd, or is the crowd behaving a certain way? You don't know. So the first person in is what we call biting the bullet. So, you know, sometimes if I'm biting the bullet, then it's like, okay, why not? You know that your response might not be regularly if you're in the middle of the lineup. I love being middle of the lineup. I usually have a great show. They've had a few comedians before. Sometimes it dips, you get someone newer, and then people bring me on to build it back up, but not too close to the headliner because I might upstage him.
How do you find the audience in California? And have you done stand-up comedy outside of California, like on the East Coast and maybe even Canada at some point in your career?
I haven't gone to Canada yet. And that's my yet. Yeah, I'm a big part of my path is to be traveling internationally. So I perform in Australia, New Zealand. I just came back from doing a tour in Thailand. I'm going to be going to the UK at the end of the year. So looking out for more gigs there. And I want to get to Dubai. I want to go to the Philippines. Part of what I feel I'm meant to be doing is traveling to different countries and getting to see different cultures and performing comedy. So California is where I entered the world of comedy, and that's where my imprint would be. I've performed in New York and Atlanta as well in the clubs there, and it's a different vibe within the States, but at the end of the day, I'm seen as an English female performer. That's what they see, and usually that's what they want to hear about, being an English female in their country. And so that's what's really sort of risen. And when I go out to different countries, you know, doing the whole how Americans see me doesn't usually work that well, you know, in Sydney, for example. So things have to change, and you learn very quickly, oh, okay, I have to change this up. This is how they perceive me. And when I was last in Thailand, it's becoming an art form now, because there was in most audiences, when you have expats, for example, you have Canadians, Americans, Brits, German, Australians, Kiwi, you've got other Europeans, maybe some French, and it's Russian, a lot of Russians there in Thailand on the islands I was at. So you realize, oh, wait, this joke, the Americans are really going to love, because I've been doing those jokes for a while as a Brit in America. But the faces on some of the British people or Australian are like, that's not funny. And so now I know how to premise it and be like, okay, so Americans, you're going to love this one. And sure enough, they'll die laughing. And they'll say, now, Brits, what about this? And so it's a very interesting way to bring people in. And also it makes people feel kind of special, because they're like, oh, okay, this is us now and how we are. So I find I really grow as a performer traveling the world. And you don't have to. You can keep your niche and be in your one place. But then every time I come back to California, after having gone abroad, I come back and usually they're, you know, bang on smash sets, because I was like, oh, yes, okay, this is how I entered the world of comedy. This is how I can shift it now. And it's very well received. But I grow as a person doing comedy. It's not necessarily about growing as a comedian, especially when one's in the arts. I grow as a person. I learn a lot of stuff. And, you know, it really came to terms in this last time when I went to Bangkok, or you go to another country, the first set is going to be just assimilating, like what is happening, what's going on. And then it's almost sort of traumatic for me. I entered comedy because I was very hurt with an injury, and my nonprofit, we'll probably get to a bit later,
Yes.
integrated wellness and comedy, and I discovered my body started healing. So although I go to another country and it's almost like I'm breaking through CPTSD is what I really believe it is at this point, almost traumatic. When I come back, it's like my body starts to heal. Like this wall that you see right now, I painted one of my rooms where I live. I've never done that in my life before, but I could never physically do that before with a repetitive stress injury. So I know it's a direct result of going through this process, going to another country. So as long as I keep living, I'm going to be doing that, because I have discovered how this experience is helping me face myself through art and grow and heal. I'm probably going to live longer than most of the people I know.
I've heard that from other comedians too, and also musicians, how music gets some of these people through tough times, and comedy can be very good for your mental health, and it's all in your mindset too.
Well, yes, comedy can be absolutely detrimental to one's mental health as well. I mean, you've got a bunch of people who are coming out there wanting to be seen and heard, and an industry where the market is saturated, trying to make money, a living in a major city as an artist is really hard, and people equate your value as to whether you can. Well, you might have just done a commercial where you're jumping off, I don't know, a rock for a cereal. Does that mean that you're super duper talented and amazing? According to society and how you pay your bills, yes. But in reality, maybe not. So the fight for that, for the stage time, the fight of, oh, why I didn't have a good set, can really do one's head in. However, when it comes from the mindset of we really are on our own path, and that speaking our truth, and that we're all carried, and in my point of view, fame, as it were, is absolutely destined. I know too many people who are amazingly talented, never happens, and too many people who are substantially not as talented and it hits. And so trying to make sense of that is absolute insanity, my experience. And therefore we continue, we take actions, we do what's honest, but that's happening is going to happen. It's sort of almost like when people say, oh, they found their soulmate or something like that. They'll say about how you just couldn't mess it up. You kept trying to mess it up, and then you kept bumping into them, or you decided, I'm not going to go to this place because they're going to be there. And then you bump into them again. It's sort of certain things. There's another energetic field, whatever you wish to call that is running it. And I fundamentally am at this experience in my life where it's about listening and surrendering to that, and distinguishing whether that is my head making it up or a reality of what's happening. Who knows?
How important is a strong support system in the comedy industry, or even the acting, or I shouldn't just say comedy, but the entertainment industry? Because you're obviously going to get a lot of successes, but you're also going to get a lot of rejections. And I don't use the word failure. I always call them temporary setbacks.
Well, you have it's also the same with sports. You started the sports podcast, and why is it someone that runs and then their hamstring is pulled and their ACL and they're done for? And why someone else can exercise and it doesn't happen to them? Right? Oh, I was so stupid, I shouldn't have worn those shoes. Well, that's also part of something bigger. So finding a support system, it depends on what kind of support system you've got. Often the support system of your genetic family is not the best support system for you moving forward with your life in other areas. You may love them to death. The support system, even if you're in sales, just selling cars, for example, we have it. Barry Cullen there, selling cars, there's fighting for that was my car. They came in that day. Well, yeah, but I'm the one that then sold them on the other vehicle. Like that. How do you create a cohesive support network? And ultimately, we're not in a consciousness where everyone is able to pay their bills easily. Everyone is able to get their basic needs met. So we have two factors. We've got mixed up with needs and wants, because there's been such an inability to get needs met, right? So then we want to make ourselves feel better with other outside entities, which is not actually a need, but we think that's now a need, right? And then you have other things, for example, I have to have certain up-to-date technology like you do. And so I have to go buy that, but that's super expensive. Other people might not need to have that tech for what they're doing. I need to have it standing by just in case. And so we have that aspect that we can't be able to make a living and get by without this struggle, right? And if that was sustained, we don't have such a gap between the really wealthy and middle class. What is that now, right? There's a gap between that there's this sort of inward fighting, and then we implode it, right? We implode it like, oh, what's wrong with me? Why can't I get it? And it's really not about us and our value. We've all got a different path that we're doing. And so finding a support network can be really hard, because in some ways, only other comedians are going to understand, oh, well, you know what, this is what they did that person. Or, you know, certain people might be really loyal to a club for a long time, and then suddenly the club just poops on them, but they have the affluence of a husband or a partner that they go and open up their own club. Well, some people don't have that. And whatever we go through, this is our value based on how the entertainment business sees us and other people see us, is where we're actually off with our own perception. And unfortunately, we're blasted with social media of having to show what you're doing all the time. Was it great? Was it not? But you're going to find these people are at home in their beds crying over the fact that they didn't get 7 laughs a minute when they were supposed, you know, or they thought they should be getting 10. Like, we don't see that. And so a support network can come from all kinds of places. In some ways, you need it from people in that group. You also might not have a healthy family for it. They may only be able to go so far with you. And that's where I find that the support network goes deeper into a more sort of spiritual realm for one another, to reset that nervous system, to really understand that life is short. It's all sort of a game, really. Anyway, why not make it as less stressful as possible and enjoy ourselves when not harmed?
Absolutely. And for me, Paula, I got in. Sorry, I think there's a little feedback there. I apologize. Technology. Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say I found my passion at the age of 47 by doing volunteer work, which led to doing camera work, which led to a podcast show, which led to my show being on a smaller station in Georgia, which is done remotely. And I've been getting all these media opportunities, and this is something I have a passion for. My former career in security, I think, prepared me for this, because when I worked in security, I had to deal with all kinds of situations, all kinds of people, and I had to do a lot of listening as well. And that's a huge part of doing this show too, not just talking, but listening to the guests, because I sometimes prepare questions for my guests, but when I'm talking to them, I have to make sure I'm listening, because they can also give me the answers to 6, 7, 8 questions ahead of time too.
Yeah.
And also, one thing you brought up too, with I know in Canada too, I know you've never been to Canada, but our country's a little similar to the States, except we're much smaller. And we have our wealthy people, but we're finding the middle class here is shrinking, and there's more people that are really hurting because of the cost of living here and the high taxes here in Canada.
It's global.
Yes.
And this is where one really can build people together, is through global community. And that's comedy, communication, communing. That's why it's done in front of an audience that's live. It's one of the few places, maybe apart from maybe Parliament, where you actually have direct feedback from people and speaking your truth. And that's where, you know, we can find some commonality. And I have been to Canada. I have family in Canada. I just haven't performed yet there.
Well, hopefully one day. Now, what part of Canada, by the way? I'm in Ontario, which is the biggest province here in Canada out of all the 10.
Yes, I was in Toronto.
Toronto. I'm only an hour from Toronto, and I was there last week. It's like our version of New York City or Los Angeles here. It's crazy.
Yes, I went up further a bit north. So I've got some Scottish rallies up there.
Awesome. And hopefully you do perform here one day. And Canada is known for obviously hockey and beer and donuts, but Canada's also had a lot of comedians over the years, including the late great John Candy, Eugene Levy, Joe Flaherty. And we actually had a comedy show in the 70s, early 80s, around when SNL Saturday Night Live was in its prime, called SCTV as well.
Right. I think didn't Michael Myers come from there? Mike Myers was from Canada?
Yes, he's actually from Scarborough, Ontario, which is a suburb of Toronto too. That's another gentleman I forgot to mention. So we have a long history of having a lot of comedians.
Mhm.
So, all right, we're going to get into some questions, Paula. Can you tell my audience just a little bit about yourself, and when did you develop an interest in comedy and in acting in the entertainment industry, like performing in front of people?
Oh, great. Thank you for the question. So I think when I was very young, I remember at a college, we had to fill in, when I say college, that was 16 to 18 back then. Uh, what do you want to do? And I wanted to act. And I wrote down, they were like, when did you first have experience? And I wrote down, when I was 5 and I was directing my relatives in plays in the backyard. You know, you just hold your family members hostage to watch the plays, and everyone dresses up, and all the mums just want to do is just talk to each other, and you're like, we're performing, be quiet, you know. And now I've been on the other end of it. I'm like, oh yeah, I get it. So I've always wanted to be in the arts. I was very heavily discouraged. Where I grew up was heavy music or heavy sports. And I was in a choir, and we would go sing in Wales. And I was the one who was always encouraged to read poems. So look, I'm a natural second. I was not as amazing as some of the other sopranos, and it can take me a minute to sort of grab the feel of a song. So it wasn't really heavy for acting, but I got heavily into it. Funnily enough, we talk about like, Canadians, but I was very obsessed with Michael J. Fox as a teenager. Back to the Future came out. I still think
1985.
yeah, 1985, still think it's one of the best films ever. And so I was obsessed with Michael J. Fox. And so I told everyone I was going to move to America and be famous. And then I found myself, you know, making my mum drive me places. I always had wished that I was raised in a entertainment field family and we were closer to London, because I felt I was robbed of time. And the reality is, if it was supposed to happen a certain way, it was. But yes, a lot of the people you find who become very well known when they're young, they were even at, you know, drama schools when they were younger. So that's where I sort of started getting into the arts. Comedy was not something that was really done. It was more like Shakespeare or serious plays. And I was always very much told to be quiet, sit down, be proper, Paula, because I was not proper, but known for my wit and my humor. Even when I went to drama school in America, again, no one was really advocating comedy and having a comedy class. And I fully believe everyone should do a comedy class, a stand-up class for their own speaking of their truth. And so when I graduated from drama school, there was a fellow who's now passed on that would produce the Jerry Lewis telethon. And he said to me, you need to do comedy. You need to be doing stand-up comedy. And I followed someone, sort of a mentor for a bit, but I just didn't understand, how do I be funny in regular life and then put it on stage, and the idea of the open mics. And then I got waylaid with other improv. I got heavily into improv and things. And then I came back to comedy because it was through some charity work that they had some comedians doing comedy for the fundraising event. And one of them seemed like a really nice person. And so I talked to them. I took a sort of a class, a one-on-one thing, and was thrown to the lions, as it were. And I created one bit that became quite well known within the community. And what happened was, this was pre-pandemic, there was still a lot of prejudice towards women, and that it was okay to say certain jokes on stage that were very derogatory towards women. And it went to an open mic, and any woman that said anything got shut down. And I thought, this is not worth my time. I'm not going to spend my time. I'm raising a step kid who's in middle school, who needs a special attention. And I thought, I'm not doing this to become famous. I'd already gotten hurt with an injury that I had, and I was in way more chronic pain then. And so I stopped. And then when it came to the pandemic, I turned my meditation teaching into a nonprofit, and we couldn't do anything in person. And I knew that we needed to laugh. And through that, I did a first laugh experience. I call it Laugh Experience mini fundraiser. And the next day I was approached by someone saying, why are you not doing this? And I gave them all the reasons of what I've told you before. And they said, but you still haven't told me why you're not doing this. And I was like, okay. And then we did some more fundraisers because we were still locked in. And I really wanted them to perform more in my events. And they were like, look, I've just got 2 young children now. I'm too busy. I'll give you my time. I'll always do anything for you. But you need to be the one who is the MC and the central figure. And so I did that for one event. And, you know, they messaged me the next day and said, see, you can do it all. Do you know how hard it is for someone to be MC and also talking about the event and link it in? I think you don't realize how talented you are. There's no like amazing brag about that. And so they told me to continue. And that was the end of 2020. So January 2021, I went on Zoom for a mic and I bombed so bad. It was just horrendous. I woke up the next day like, that's it. I'm never doing this again. And I called someone who I took a class from. And they said, well, that's just part of the process. You have to do those sets at 2 a.m. at the Comedy Store. And I was just like, I don't have a bunch of sorority sisters who are going to come along to that to watch the shows. And then I got really quiet and I meditated and I thought, what is it that I want? What do I really want? And what I wanted was to speak my truth, maybe do my special and maybe do some quiz show stuff, have fun with it. Well, that afternoon, she sent me to a website and there was this opening for a radio headliner. And I thought, I'm never going to get that. You know what? The universe, go ahead. So I submitted myself and within the hour, because I went to another appointment, I had booked the job and I thought, oh, snap. I have to do a headliner gig now. I don't have the material. And then they said, by the way, we'd like you to come on and do lots of quiz shows for us leading up to it. And I thought, well, okay, universe, this is happening a bit quick for 2021. I suppose I better do this. And what happened was, I can't tell you, it was the most amazing, audio radio spot. But what happened was I created a connection for them. I kept working for quite a while for them. And then I started to surrender over time that I'm supposed to be doing comedy. Because what happened was it started to heal me. And when I say that, I talk about it's almost traumatic. It is like working through your own trauma and facing oneself. But then what happens, there's a jump in my healing that even the doctors still don't quite understand. I don't understand it, but I know that I'm supposed to be doing comedy. And I find myself fighting it all the time because it can get you into a headspace. But that's my truth of how I came back to the comedy. And I still am I'm still very picky. I still don't like the scene that much. I want to be very careful where I put my energy and my time. So me coming on here is a worthy place for me to be on. So you know that. And doing it on my own terms. And of course, now the industry is lightened up a bit more. It's okay to be a woman. I mean, I came back from Thailand and, I was on one bill and I was the only female on the show. And when I did the headlining spot at we'll give them a shout out, the comedy joint in Bangkok, their audience members showed up because there was a woman headlining. And it was a super fab poster, by the way. They did a great poster. It was really fun and friendly. People always say, what kind of poster you do want? I was like, I want a friendly one. I want a colorful, friendly poster because those are my audience demographics. People are kind of colorful, been around the world, want to have a nice time, friendly. Don't need to go at it with the comic. Just want to have a laugh and relax and a evening where we can release some stress. So that's how it's been continuing, and that's rather a long answer, but there you go.
And that's why I love doing the show again. Like I said, I always love hearing stories from my guests. I wanted to ask you this because I know each comedian, every guest they have on here has a different story. But as a comedian, writing your own jokes, did you take a class for that? And sometimes can the jokes come really quick, or sometimes do you have somebody that you can do the jokes to first before you try them on stage?
Okay, so first of all, I'm really awful at writing jokes. I am not a joke writer. And the problem is, it's really hard to get someone else to write a joke for me, because a lot of people who write jokes, you either have to have like full-time paid person to do it, because, and then they know your rhythm. Because I could say that joke as me, it's not that funny. And then I could say something that's not funny to anyone else, and the way I deliver it, it's funny. So I will be honest with you. How I get my jokes is not sitting down and hashing it out. I have done that with some people who know me, and if someone knows me, but I get it more into that ethereal space. I can get it from meditating, my whole section. And if you, I think you've got it listed down there, paulajanenewman.com, there's a whole section where I do my iconic Adele. That came from me hiking, and my just Paula commentary on, like, I don't know, she sounds drunk when she does this. Sounds like a drunken hour phone call. But the secret of all of my comedy, as I've learned, it usually comes from some pain or whatever. You know, my mom, she's not alive anymore, but my mom was known for drinking and dialing. Right? There's certain nights of the day, certain days of the week, where at a certain time of night, you're like, oh, no, I'm not picking up the phone now. That's a D&D. And that's how that came about. So the more I've learned about how do I get the comedy up there, is the more I've learned about myself. So when I'm trying to structure jokes, like having my injury or being in chronic pain, I found that very hard to do, because I'm not naturally that type of writer. I'm an orator, right? So an orator versus a writer, someone who naturally can get up and tell a story, right? So when it comes to doing that in comedy, I have to try to get really disciplined, because otherwise I'm just going to tell a story like I am now. I have to make sure there are punchlines. So when they come, usually a bit will come when I crack it really fast. But otherwise, I can be struggling and struggling and struggling and feel like I'm on empty, because I can't get it, because I'm more of a storyteller than writer. And I'm quite envious of those lovely people who are fantastic writers. They get it much faster.
Paula, for those who are watching this live stream right now on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, X, or whatever they call it now, Instagram, and on audio platforms, and on WQEE 99.1 FM, a little plug there. What advice would you give to somebody that's looking to get into the comedy or the entertainment industry?
All right, first of all, I'm going to be really biased here. Hands down, I would have you take my online Rise Up comedy class. And let me tell you why I would have you do that. It goes through the nonprofit Aware Meditation, and it is a comedy class unlike any other. So you've just heard me talk about how I'm not the best at writing jokes. You can go to classes, you can read books, you can get someone who can do set up, punch, set up, punch, set up, punch. But finding your own voice, finding your own vibe on stage, which makes you unique, is much harder. And that's why people say it takes a long time for them to do well in comedy, because everyone can write these great jokes. But can you get up there and do something that's just you being wacky you? And in this class, it's done online on Zoom. It goes to the nonprofit, so it's a way reduced price. But the idea is that it's anyone. You don't have to have done comedy before, but you start to find your vibe. So we just started a class, for example, and part of what we do in the first session is we dance. We watch each other dance. We dance, then we talk about ourselves, and then we see what we see. And because of the way I orchestrate it for, say, like you were taking, for Chris to just come across as Chris. And then people who haven't met you feel the vibe of Chris. And then the jokes start forming about who you are. Now, don't get me wrong, you do have to work at it. You do have to come up with something that we work with. But those that have done it have bypassed about 3 to 5 years in the comedy scene. The first two people I took, one of them really wanted to do it for themselves, and they're going through some other stuff. But the other person, they were there, they did their set. There were comedy bookers who took them, and they're now performing in clubs that they've bypassed years of the hustle to do, because there's the scene work, and then there's like, can you present something? Plus we film it. So you now have a film set that if you say, hey, can I perform at this club? I'm coming out of town. This is a set that I've done. People not only know that you've got a set that's filmed, but they've also know you've got something filmed that it shows your vibe, right? So when you have your vibe up there, that's how people really book you. because what is different about you and how you're saying it and your sort of point of view. And I still, every time I take the class, I learn something more about me. This particular session, it's a lot of, I don't know, freebie winners that I give it, charity fundraisers or whatnot, because I like to support charities. And so there's only a few people. I said, well, do me then, so that's where they're like, no, you're this storyteller, you're this visionary thing. I'm like, okay, well, let's try to put some jokes in about that, because I never got that for me. And I feel that half of my battle, which is why I said in California, it's always like coming back home, because I had to figure out, this is how Americans see me. So I have to address how I'm seen. But then when people talk to me, they're like, she's actually, there's an idea of what you think I am versus who I am. And in order to move forward in that, you've got to really get that. So, you can watch it on YouTube. You can watch people from different ethnicities, different races, blah, blah, blah. They're going to be having the same jokes, talking about the same thing, which is okay for a while. But then how is that different for you? Right? How is it different for you and what happened to you? So I make jokes about English people not having great teeth, but then I talk about my incident at the orthodontist and why the orthodontist wouldn't give me braces, right? So then we start getting to a different level about how my mom then really tried to make it happen, because it was a social status back there, because we have free healthcare in England, but not free orthodontic care. So if you can afford that means you've got some money. So my mom's trying to put wires on my braces to prove to anyone we're doing okay. We're okay. We're holding it. And I'm like, the orthodontist is sending me away. Like, what sort of English person gets sent away to have orthodontics, right? So this is where I think it's really different. People say watch comedians. So this is the big thing. You can watch all the Netflix specials. But this is them with their audience. They've already got their audience. They're not in a bar trying to get people to laugh at jokes, right? They've done that. So what's also good is watch people who inspire you or think like you. So as you can see already about how I'm approaching people with comedy, I'm trying to get people to approach who they are as a person to allow that to come out, rather than, you can watch this podcast, you can hear this. Yeah, that's okay. But I did all of that while I was doing the acting. There is no formula for you to make a reasonable living or to be famous in the arts industry. If there was, everyone will be doing it and it would be happening.
Just like my way of doing things, it's unconventional. I started this when I was 47 and I'm self-taught, and this technology, there are negatives to it, Paula, but I learned how to self-teach myself into editing video, promoting myself, cutting promos on TikTok. And if you use social media the right way, it can be a great tool. And one thing I wanted to ask you, for your classes, I'm almost interested in this on Zoom. What's the best way of somebody contacting you if they're watching this and they're interested in signing up for your classes on Zoom?
Absolutely. So you can hit me up on Instagram. Instagram is Paula Jane Newman. You can also go to Rise Up Comedy Club on Instagram, and then you can message there. You can go to the website Paula Jane Newman, that will link you to it. You can go awaremeditation.com. It will have it there. It's also listed the next one in Eventbrite. But if you want to know when the next thing is happening, go to paulajanenewman.com. You can subscribe to the newsletter, and then you'll know when it's going on, and check out my feed. I usually pop a little thing up when it's coming up. We're going to start some at the end of this year, towards the beginning of next year, the comedy for realtors. Like, my gosh, so much in common with actors. They've all got headshots and they all know that it's all about the lighting, right? So there's stress in everything that we do. But I also want to be collaborating more with people who are watching, who are part of nonprofits and wellness, about how comedy can actually help us for healing, not just laughing at it, but going through a course like mine that is directed more about intuition. And it really can't be explained that well because it's so different. All I knew is when I had these two people a couple of years ago approach me, something happened, and it was using all of my talent, my teaching. I'm a natural teacher, my meditation experience and my performance experience, being able to create this. But they had to do the work. Don't get me wrong. I've had classes where people don't listen to my instructions, and that's fine. You don't have to listen to my instructions, but you're not going to get that great set. And you can also find the YouTube channel, Rise Up Comedy, which in fact, I will challenge anyone to find it, because if you type it in and even type in channel, it does not come up. It's that low on the algorithm.
Just like my YouTube channel, by the way. And by the way, speaking of your YouTube channel, Paula Jane Newman, I've subscribed. And Paula, if you still have a few minutes, I'd like to play one of your clips from the Paula Jane Newman YouTube channel from Flappers Comedy Club from 2022. And I've had some guests on from Flappers too. And a couple years ago, or during the pandemic, I was watching some comedy shows live stream from Flappers as well.
Great.
Just let me know, Paula, if you can hear the audio okay.
I will let you know.
Thank you so much. And this, again, everybody, please subscribe to Paula Jane Newman YouTube channel as well. Just bear with me 1 second, and we'll get this going.
My first job in America was delivering pizzas in the Bay Area. Everyone got their food about an hour late. But having an English accent paid off. I'd say, terribly sorry, the highway was choker. And they'd be, oh, your accent is so adorable. I don't know what you just said, but I'm gonna give you a big tip. Seeing as you came all the way from Australia. So I've actually had to adapt my accent in order to be understood. Not really quite sure why. It's not as if I walk around sounding like Ozzy Osbourne. But I'm not alone. The famous singer Adele does not use her natural Cockney tones in those hit songs. The first time that I heard it, I had the shock of my life. There she was, she stepped up, took the Grammy, leaned into the mic and said, I'd like to thank the manager! I was like, oh my gosh. Even I didn't understand what she said. So then I started looking into her lyrics. Don't really get how these are considered romantic love songs, because they read to me that A, she's a stalker. Words in the song, someone like you, are, never mind, I'll find someone like you. I hate to show up out of the blue. Uninvited. But I just couldn't help myself. I couldn't fight it. And B, the woman's clearly a drunk. Because hello is clearly a verbatim transcript of a drunken dial phone call to her ex at 2 a.m. Hello? It's me. I was wondering if after all these years you'd like to meet and go over everything. Hello? I must have called 1,000 times. I'm sorry. It's so typical of me to talk about myself. Hello. All right, that's my time.
Paula, thoughts on your performance at the Flappers Comedy Club from 2 years ago? I got it off your website and I thought it was great, and thank you so much for letting me use one of your skits, because I always like to promote my guest work on here.
Oh, thank you. I feel like I'm like an athlete, I'm just watching my latest performance at the Olympics. How did I like it? That people are watching me in the box, trying not to cringe. Yes, it was everything in that set. I want you to know that was completely recorded with all the correct audio. Nothing was doctored on any of that. I think you can even hear some of the audience yelling out random things. I'd never heard that. I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, because often now people put clips on and the audio slightly changed. And, that's only a couple of years ago, but still no one was doing that. So yeah, it was what had happened was I had taken a class of trying to get that type 5, and what happened was when I did that performance, the audio was busted in the actual place. It didn't come across. And then a few weeks later, Flappers put me on some in that particular room there, and it just was a night that hit. And that's why it's always important, I feel, every time you do stand-up comedy to get it recorded, because you just don't know. I watch every set that I do to watch it, because there's what I think is happening at the time. And so I could come away, and someone gave me this great advice, which is, Paula, you're never as funny as you think you are when you watch a set, and you're never as bad as you think you are when you watch a set. And it puts me in reality, because I can see, like, even now, I don't do the Adele so much anymore, just because I've got a little burnt out on it. But that thing about Australia and whatever, I'm still finding new elements to that. People are really enjoying that. And so there's some great golden nuggets. I think it has that clip that I use that still today for, what I'm kind of like on stage, because it really does depict what you're going to get if you hire me, right? It's an English woman, having a little quirky point of view with some act outs. And when I came back from Bangkok, and there's two clubs there, the Bangkok Comedy Club, and then there's the Comedy Joint. And the Bangkok Comedy Club wrote a review for me about me, which I thought was lovely. And just said, Paula Jane Newman's unique, quirky comedy, high energy with hilarious act outs. And I thought that was so great to finally get, someone else's viewpoint about how they really see you. And that's why I feel that clip does depict who you're going to get, even though I'm not saying those jokes. I mean, I've got a point of view of, it sounds like a drunk adult person, or now I'm going to slightly mess with you if, you think that I'm from Australia and I'm not. And so watching it, I've seen it enough times that I don't flinch looking at myself, because there's sometimes I look at a set and I'm like, but I think that's a pretty solid representation, I think, throughout time. I mean, I'll probably, when I get older, I won't look the same, but who I am as a person, I think the adjectives that I would come up with, well, I don't know, what adjectives would you come up with when you watch that? You watch that, and what, you've seen it before you posted it. What did you see?
Just somebody that's funny and being themselves. And I can tell how passionate you are about your craft.
Oh, well, that's far more flattering than I would come up with.
No, seriously, I thought it was great. Hey, since I got you on here, how did you come up with the Real Deal nickname? And I wanted to ask you this too, since you're from the UK. Do you find there are more female comedians coming out of the UK now too?
Well, okay, so let me answer the questions. How did I come up with the Real Deal? Is because that's what people tell me. I've had, whether you want to call it intuitive healers or whatever, because I've got hurt with an injury, so I did a lot of Western medical and alternative care to try and help deal with a repetitive stress injury. And time and time again, I would simply get called, no, Paula, you are the real deal. And I would never understand it because I was like, what does that mean? You think that I'm fake? But the reality was, I've understood that most people are lying to you. Majority of time, most people are hiding their truth, and that's not really how I love. Doesn't mean that I'm like completely, right on about everything in this angelic person. No, but pretty much what you get or what I say is what's going on with me. And so that's why I created The Real Deal. And it was funny because a friend of mine who used to do comedy, said, I think that you need to do this comedy more seriously. And I was like, wait, what? And we never had a conversation about that. And they sat down and they said, no, you are the real deal. I was like, that's so weird. I just put this on my website. Are you sure you didn't look at my website? They were like, no. And so that's how that came about. And then in regards to the UK, I am excited to embark upon the UK scene. I have not been on the UK scene. And so most of my stuff is going to be, a hybrid, having been raised in the UK and then spent the rest of my life in the States. So I guess that makes me obnoxious, but with manners.
And that leads to this question. How much of an adjustment was it moving from the UK to the United States as a teenager, especially?
Yeah, the hardest thing now, and you still notice it, if I'm talking to you or I'm around more English people, my accent will get thicker. The first thing was I was not understood when I got to America, and the lack of compassion to try to understand me. And I was in the San Francisco Bay Area. And so quite often, if I was down in the Mission area and I'd open my mouth, people thought that I was a Spanish and would speak Spanish to me. And I was having a bit of an identity crisis, as it were. Little words were not understood, words that I thought you could probably infer. So I found that I had to stop modulating my voice up and down so much. I had to make it flat. And for a long time, I worked on losing my accent, not only for work, but so people could actually understand me. I was having anxiety issues about speaking because I'm not going to be understood with my point of view. Now I'm not even understood when I speak. So that was an adjustment, and still, I still come across it, but I'm around enough Brits now to know that, yeah, we all have this same challenge. But I felt very alone with that because I moved out here and then I went to university, and then university was all about, they're just, oh, that's you because you're British. And I didn't know what people were telling me. And it was very interesting. There was a slight form of, marginalization of what they're expecting me to be or what I'm supposed to be. And I can't say that people's ideas of what an English person is actually true. So if there was a bit, I would say it felt isolating for sure, because I hadn't got many people to talk to about that. Coming over from another country, having this experience, I didn't know anyone else who had that experience, even though I technically spoke the same language.
Paula, before we wrap this up, I just got a couple more questions for you. Can you just tell us about your voiceover work over the years in 100 TV and films?
Yes.
That's amazing. Congrats.
Well, thank you. Again, it's not what I had envisioned. I came out here, my drama school, I went to Carnegie Mellon University, and I did not want to go back to New York where it was cold. And we had a head of the department at the time who had Los Angeles connections. So I said, can we please do a showcase in LA? So I moved out to Los Angeles, and I, got an agent. It sort of didn't work out. And I was doing improv and theatre. And in the theatre, they were doing a production of Nicholas Nickleby. And so there were a bunch of Brits, and my background was improv. And one girl gave my number as they were looking for people who had young voices who could do something called looping, which is where you improv all day for a television show or a movie, and you do background voices. And they needed 2 young girls for something called the Linda McCartney story. And then it's a very, very tight niche that I got involved with, and I sort of worked my way in it, and it sort of happened, and I got hurt. And then I was able to still do that because hustling and driving around for auditions is hard. And, hopefully, knock on wood, it's still sustained before AI takes all the jobs over in the voiceover field. And that's pretty much a very secret thing. I've never hit a big commercial campaign. I wish I had. My work has been predominantly TV and movies, and it's such a secret job that a lot of the times we don't even get credit for it. So what you see up there on IMDb is probably about half the work that I've actually done.
Wow. And I was reading up too, you were in the Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl. How did that role come about, and what was it like being on that set? And did you have any contact with Johnny Depp?
Yes. So that role came about. So I had lost my agent or whatever, and I was part of what we call a fake management company, where we all put a few bob in, and then we would get all the casting information and we get submitted. And for whatever reason, the woman who was in charge of it decided to call and said, "Will you see Paula Jane?" And when I got called, I had recently got hurt with my injury, and I had like these things on my wrists to try and numb the pain from the carpal tunnel and the tendonitis. And I went and auditioned, and then I came back, and then I ended up booking it. But then I was told, we actually haven't given you the full approval. You're going to have to go through the read through. And I sat between Johnny Depp and Jerry Bruckheimer, and they were going to decide after the read through if I was good enough for the part. And so it was when Johnny Depp had the Viper Room. And so we did the read through at the Viper Room. He sat next to me. He goes, "I want to make sure that you're okay. Is anything, do you need anything?" I said, "Well, it's a bit cold in here, isn't it?" And he was like, "Oh, yeah, of course. I'll change that for you." So we went and changed that. And there he was drinking his red wine, middle of the day doing a read through. And at the end of it, he was like, "Yeah, so anything else?" I was like, "No, it's great." He goes, "Well, I'll see you soon then." I was like, "Well, I'm actually not in any scenes with you directly. I'm the maid, so I probably won't see you, will I?" And he was like, No, I think I am. I think I'm going to see you again. So we'll wait, Johnny Depp, in case that does or does not happen. All right?
And I'm going to make sure I watch that movie too, by the way, and look for you specifically. I just think that's awesome. And if you got a couple more minutes, I got another question I wanted to ask you too. Can you just speak a little bit about your work as an MC, as a host, and tell us a little bit about being a meditation teacher and inspirational speaker? And I kind of want to learn more about meditation too.
Oh, great. When I had got hurt, they give me loads and loads of pain management pills, and it got to a point where I was realizing they weren't working anymore. I was just becoming more and more numb. And so I had looked up meditation, and I had tried lots of forms of meditation. And then I found a practice that really, really helped me, to the point that I became a teacher with the meditation, because I knew in order for me to grow with something, I had to give it away, as it were. And then I found myself teaching people who were like myself in chronic pain, or there were people who were coming out of rehab, coming out of prison. And that's how the nonprofit came about, because I was kind of flailing. Other people were getting all these followings on Instagram, or they wanted to listen to their courses, and I was being the real deal, as it were. And a lot of people in this world, we come into this world, we deal with abuse, we deal with situations, and there is this following that we unaware that we're doing. And I'm telling people, you don't need to do that. You just listen to yourself, and let me help you do that. In fact, I have a little ebook that's on the Aware Meditation website. If you sign up for the newsletter, you'll get it free, about stories from people who learned the practice and it changed their lives. And so when I came to doing comedy and I like hosting, it was about not me anymore. So when you host a show or MC for a show, it's about feeling the consciousness and the vibe of the environment and what's happening. And there, I'm out of my head. I'm being of service. I'm helping people. So when I go to MC, I will always ask a comedian, is there some project you're working on right now? Is there something that you're doing that I can help uplift you? Is there anything I could say that could prepare people to get into the mindset of your comedy? And in the US, people love that. In different countries, they're like, what is that? But it's me trying to help everyone else be uplifted to make a unified event. And so when I get to MC for charity events or, holiday Christmas parties, I don't drink. So I'm a reliable person to hire, because I'm not going to be drinking. I'm not going to, people say they don't drink, but then they smoke too much, right? And I don't do any of that stuff. So you're going to get someone who's very clear-minded and knows that it's actually not about me, right? How do I link it in? How do I try to make it about, you? I do everything to make myself available to people beforehand to help raise it. And having a charity myself, a small one, very small, I understand how important donations are and how important it is to encourage. So I think one that I did at Maxine Waters was, I just started getting a little competitive with us. So did you know such and such is now outbid the last person? And I see people run back, for me to try to help you be stronger with your charity and cause is how I look at emceeing, and that's where I like to do it more than anything. Now, what's another part of the question? Oh, speaking, inspirational speaking. Okay. So where it's different is a lot of people come from the therapist background or backgrounds on how they made their money and their fortune, because it's what people want to be inspired about. When I come from I'm talking about wellness and comedy and speaking one's truth. And ultimately, if we have any resentment or anything's going on with us, we never spoke our truth because we felt we couldn't, it would hurt someone's feelings. We don't live in a consciousness where it's okay to do that. Like all that kind of stuff comes up. So I have a little niche setting where I naturally am going to bring in the comedy because I'm a comedy person. But I went through something quite horrific early in life that, it's muscular, so there's no cure for it, right? And suddenly your whole life is upside down and your value is based, predominantly when you're a female, it's based on, what you look like if you don't have a set career, or can you hitch yourself to someone who is wealthy and you can sustain that way. And what happened to me was, the relationship I was in was very clear it was not working. And so I actually ended that sooner than it was going to end. Even it was going to end anyway in a very, it was very amenable, but I ended that and I faced this on my own without family nearby to financially support me. I couldn't dress myself. I couldn't put my arm out. And then all these ideas of what you're supposed to do as a woman at a certain age. I didn't have a big career. I didn't have any property. I don't have resources. How do you get back without falling into the quagmire? And being able to really understand that I had to shift my whole viewpoint on life altogether. I had to stop thinking that I was basically a machine for prestige and property and living in fear, and that I had to realize that it actually wasn't my body that it was the problem. It was my mind that was the problem. And I had to really live into a mindset of it's do less to accomplish more. And how do I bring things to me and be happy and understand that my path is my path? Because the more I try to do that prestige and get all these things, the further away I got from it. Right. I remember I came out of drama school and people said, oh, you're going to start getting Tonys. You're going to be blah, blah, blah. None of that happened. Right. And so that disappointment that sinks with you. And then as you get older, you think, well, what's going to happen through it? So when I do the inspirational speaking, it's really coming from a human point of view of how it doesn't matter all the things you've been told, all the cultural ideas. The reality is if we live our own truth, that's when we're going to be happy. Because if winning an Oscar is what made you happy, we wouldn't have this many crazy people in Los Angeles. Right.
Good point. And I do have a website down here too, Paula, if you'd like to mention it, awaremeditation.com.
Yes, awaremeditation.com. It might get transfers over to awaremeditation.org now. Finally, the person who had it let us have it because it is a nonprofit. But you can go there. It has the global outreach. Like myself, it is an extension of my brain. So it's seemingly chaotic, but seemingly visionary. But it's all about wellness and stress. And how if we do something temporary, it only temporarily fix us. Please go to there. We need volunteers. We have online events. It's all about how do we reduce stress, and all of the techniques we teach, whether it's meditation or yoga, it's comedy. It's about self-sufficiency and you then being able to shift not just your viewpoint, but your whole consciousness of how you look at life. So you end up having a less stressful experience.
I do this with all my guests when we're wrapping up too, Paula. What are some fun facts about Paula Jane Newman that your fans might not know about yourself? And what's 2 words to describe your comedy style?
Okay, 2 words to describe my comedy style: friendly, and I definitely say unique. And then you said 2 things that people don't know about me. Okay.
Yes. Or
Okay.
even one. Even one.
One thing. Okay, so I'm a little obsessed with my feet, not other people's feet. Okay, like I can't think of this. Okay, feet. So like I don't want a bunion. So I've been doing yoga and things because I'm like, why is this going over? Right. And you know, my grandmother would shuffle around with her dry feet, and we have slow circulation. Genetically, I have that. Aren't I lucky? And so their feet crack up. So I put baby oil on my feet. I believe in pedicures. I believe in the foot massages. Like, I'm not into your feet. Let's get that clear. Okay. So it's only a half fetish. I don't know. Can you have a fetish for yourself?
Apparently, yes.
But I'm always like, people don't give enough love to the feet because it carries my body all day. And so that's the secret that I guess you feel so much better and in complete knowing.
Well, you don't realize how much when you're walking and you're moving, you need to take care of your feet, because if you don't take care of your feet, you can't move, and that's huge. And I totally agree with you, Paula. Hey, I got to ask you this before I wrap this up again. I love talking to you, by the way. Have you thought about writing up? Have you thought about writing a book in the future about your experiences in your career?
I have the Vedic Meditation Stories ebook, which is now free. And I am starting to write a book about comedy and healing. And so that will have true stories from people who took my class. And again, if anyone is interested in my class, we do get early bird discount. And if you come from this particular live stream, send a message that you were, and I will give you the early bird discount, even if it's a little later, to do that. But then the idea of healing through comedy, and my story will be in there. Mm-hmm.
Do I get a Canadian discount?
Just because you're Canadian? Well, that would be kind of prejudice, wouldn't it?
That's true. But one day I want to get out to California. I've never been out to LA, and I've got a lot of comedian friends out there. So I definitely would like to catch one of your shows and come out to LA. And the UK too is another place. I hear it's similar to Canada and as well.
Yeah, well, then we have stuff for the Rise Up Comedy online, and let me know, and you can come to the show.
And since we got you on here, can you tell my audience about some of your upcoming live performances?
Oh gosh, because it's so transitory. I feel like almost some of people watching it. But what do we have? September. Oh, September. We have the first filming of Two Hot Mamas, which is also on Instagram as well. And that's where me and my comedy partner. I am an empty nester. I raised a stepchild, and they are a person of color, so they're a different culture to me altogether. And my partner is a ex-Mormon who's raising 2 girls. So we have 2 completely viewpoints of raising children, but when they're resetting the idea of what a hot mama, hot woman is. So it's whether we are pet friendly, and it's also friendly for men. So we are doing the Colorado Springs in the 21st of September. We're doing the Los Angeles filming, which is the 29th of September. Before then, let me see what I have off the top of my head. I'm going to be doing the Pueblo Brewery. I think that's the 7th. We have the Valley Gals comedy, which I do once a month in Sherman Oaks, that I help produce that. That's always a great show in LA, very friendly, positive minded, and it's a free show that people can come and attend. Then I'm also doing the astrology show that's coming up in September. And then I think I'm doing a show for the blind that's in September. I have to try to get all my gigs sorted out in my head first.
And the best way to check out this would be paulajanenewman.com.
Yeah, go to paulajanenewman.com, subscribe to the newsletter. I'll send out when I'm doing the gigs, where they are, and then also Rise Up Comedy. And then if you subscribe, you're going to be the first people to get the early bird notice for anything I'm doing. And also if you want any one-on-one comedy coaching from the point of view of wellness and intuition, not set up punch, because there are people who are experts at that.
Absolutely. And where again can my audience follow you on social media and your website just before you wrap this up?
Yes, paulajanenewman.com and IG at Paula Jane Newman, or there's Rise Up Comedy Club or Aware Meditation, or you can also do the Two Hot Mamas now.
Absolutely. And, Paul, you do have an open invite to come back on my show again in the future. And when you do eventually come to Canada, or specifically Toronto, please let me know, because I would definitely like to catch one of your live shows. And I just want to wish you continued success in your career. And you wear many hats, and I think that is great when you're in a career. It's important to be able to do a little bit of everything. And you've pretty well done a lot too.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure. And of course, I'd want to come back. We never even talked about soccer. We never talked about the women's soccer making it to the World Cup final.
Okay. If you got 2 minutes, just thoughts on that.
Okay. Thoughts on this are 1971. There's a documentary about the women's playing soccer. The English team came back. They were excommunicated to play soccer. Now I can tell you that we get to the final and suddenly people actually care about it. Women being able to play soccer. Not only did they do that, but really it was the semi-final that was the one that just showed us. They were playing against Australia, the Tillies, in Australia, right? Do you know how much hate there is for an England team when they're playing Australia in Australia? And even Sam Kerr with a goal that was just flipping art as far as I'm concerned. We took the Tillies, and then of course we buckled when we played against Spain, because that's what British teams do in soccer. We buckle at the end, but the women have really been doing it. And I've been following the male World Cup. Like, I do the World Cup and the European Cup. Anything else, it just like hurts my heart too much. But I can tell you, they actually stepped it up and they didn't embarrass it too much. I will yell so loud at football games. I'm banned from bars because I'm the only sober one, but I'm so loud and I get so into it. They're like, listen, you got to go, because you can't be yelling at the screen like this. So I've had people come over to my house and are entertained by me. When the kid was young, they'd get $1 for every swear word. So they would make a mini fortune for a 7-year-old at that point. Now they're all grown up and out of the nest. So that doesn't count. But I will also, when I went to Thailand, I got a Koh Samui football shirt. So I'm very proud of that, 'cause it's got lots of colors. I like lots of colors. Don't even get started about that. If is an England match going on at 2026
and soccer
coming to the States.
And then by the way, Toronto and Vancouver are going to be hosting some World Cup games as well. And you know what? I'm not really a big soccer fan, but I might even go to one as well. Hey, by the way, since you're in Los Angeles, you have to like the Dodgers, by the way, the Dodgers and the Lakers, right?
Okay, so the Dodgers, I watched when the Dodgers were last at the World Series. There's 7 games. Like, I watched it that, but to me, it's like Rounders. It's a bit slow. It's just like a couple of notches up from. It's cricket. It's basically like those who couldn't do cricket do baseball. Because it's that sort of that. It's like a whole thing that you do. And the basketball. I'm sorry, the numbers get so high. Like 113, like that's madness. It's madness. But you know what? I went on a date and the person was a Lakers fan. And I realized in America, when I was first here, if you want to date blokes, you've got to know something about their sports. And so
they love their sports.
I love their sports. And when I said, oh yeah, I'm into the Lakers, what team do you support? I was very proud of myself as I did some research. And I was like, yes, I like the Harlem Globetrotters.
And baseball now, they have the Savannah Bananas, who are the Harlem Globetrotters of baseball. So if you ever get a chance to see the Savannah Bananas when they come to Los Angeles, check them out. They'll entertain you for 2 hours, and they're hilarious, and they're quite good.
And is it like the Harlem Globetrotters where they mix men and women together on the same team?
They do a little bit of everything. It's not basketball, but it's baseball, and people love it. And honestly, Savannah Bananas, Google them on savannahbananas.com and check them out. And by the way, soccer is growing here in North America too with the MSL, the Major League Soccer League. And LA's got a couple of teams as well, and Toronto does, and Vancouver. So soccer is becoming popular over here. I know over in the UK, you call it football and we call it soccer. So, but it is
Canada, you still call it soccer in Canada?
Yes, we do. Yep. And then we have football in the Canadian Football League. So our football we call football, soccer is soccer. That's how I was growing up here in Canada.
Well, it's coming from the person's experience, so I can't argue with that.
Yeah. But see, I can, and what I love about my show too, I don't want to be stereotyped into sports, but whatever my guests want to talk about, minus politics. There's two subjects I won't talk about on here, politics and religion. I stay away from those subjects on here. And hey, Paul, I was going to say thank you so much for giving us some time today, and I really enjoyed talking to you. And I definitely would like to have you back on again as a guest. And if you can give me a little bit of time tonight, I will do some audio, video clips, and some reels from our show if you'd like to post them in on your social media as well. And this show will probably air most likely tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 on the West Coast on WQEE 99.1 FM in Noonan, Georgia, just outside of Atlanta. This technology is amazing. I'm here near Toronto talking to you in LA, and then this show will air in Georgia tomorrow night, most likely at 8 o'clock Eastern.
Excellent. Yes, I was out there and did Laughing Skulls, did a Punchline Comedy Club last May. I'd love to get back out there in Atlanta and in Georgia and perform the world of clean comedy, where we don't have to swear or talk about things that happen in the bedroom, and we can still laugh together.
And there's one other city I'd like you to perform in, Buffalo, New York. Buffalo, New York is a great town, and they have some good comedy clubs as well. So hopefully one day you'll check out Buffalo, and then you can check out Niagara Falls.
Oh, yeah, gorgeous. I haven't been there since I was little. So,
yes, Niagara Falls, Ontario. Our side's better than the American side, off the record.
Oh, okay.
Just to let you know, but... Anyways, and I'm going to check out the Pirates of the Caribbean movie that you were in, and I will give you my feedback.
Oh, okay then. Well, then let's do that next time. Let's run the scenes and do a commentary.
All right, deal. Paula, I want to say thank you so much for coming on here today, and we'll definitely keep in touch with you and look forward to continually watching your career.
Thank you so much for having me. Mwah!
Thank you so much, Paula. A, as a Canadian, that's what we say, A here in Canada.
Hey, not bad, eh? Not bad, eh?
Not bad, eh? I'll have to get you some Canadian chocolate bars one day, too.
Is it good chocolate? Not like American chocolate.
Oh, I know. The Americans love the chocolate I bring across the border. When I go to Buffalo to do some media work, they love our potato chips and chocolate bars because apparently we have stuff they don't have over there and in the States. So, all right, I'm actually speechless, but hey, again, I just want to say thank you so much, and really enjoyed talking to you, Paula, and we'll be in touch on social media soon.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Have a good day. Bye. All right, guys, that was Paula Jane Newman. She is a stand-up comedian, actress, host, MC, meditation teacher, and an inspirational speaker as well. And you can check out her website at paulajanewman.com. She's on all social media platforms. And please subscribe to her YouTube channel, Paula Jane Newman on YouTube. I've already subscribed as well. And I got a comment here from a viewer. From Ashley. Okay, thank you so much for watching. And before we wrap this up, guys, one of my friends, Connor Solve, is doing a walk on Saturday, August 31st. Connor will be attempting to walk 65 kilometers from BMO Field in downtown Toronto to Tim Hortons Field in Hamilton. The estimate time of this walk challenge is going to be around 15 hours of walking and going along the lake shore, the majority of the way. The walk will be a challenge, but does not compare to the challenge families face when it comes to childhood cancer. Please, if you're able to donate, check out CFL Fans Fight Cancer, or please donate. Head to Connor Sauve's Twitter X page at Sauve with a capital S, Connor with a capital C, for the link on his Twitter X page as well, or just simply Google CFL Fans Fight Cancer 2024 as well. Way to go, Connor. And guys, before we wrap up this show, I've got another next Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment talk show sponsored by BarryCullen.com here in Guelph and on WQEE 99.1 FM. Tuesday, August 27th. That's tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern, with my special guest, Davine Kerr. She is a trilingual stand-up comedian and multidisciplinary artist. So we're going to talk to her about being a multidisciplinary artist and her career as a stand-up comic. And I believe she is originally from Montreal, Quebec. So Davine Kerr will be on tomorrow night, Season 8, Episode 42, overall 427 of Live with CDP Sports Talk as well. Finally, guys, if you're looking for a furry friend, check out the Cambridge and District Humane Society at 1650 Dunbar Road in Cambridge, Ontario. Telephone number 519-623-7722, or visit their website at cambridgehumanesociety.org. As always, Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment talk show is hosted by yours truly, Chris Palme. Is on weeknights from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern on WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key, the home of Southern sports and talk, the heartbeat of Atlanta. Our radio station's website is WQEEFM.radio 12345.com. By the way, guys, for the Cambridge Humane Society, you can check out all the animals profiles at cambridgehumanesociety.org. That's cambridgehumanesociety.org. And they're also doing a 50-50 monthly raffle draw where half the money will go to their programs at the Cambridge District Humane Society. Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment talk show is live streamed on these platforms: YouTube, Facebook, Twitter /X, Twitch, LinkedIn, and now available on Instagram. You can also follow my work on my website, beacons.ai/Chris D. Palme. Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment talk show again is sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet dealership at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Check out BarryCullen.com for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles, or give the dealership a call at 519-824-0210, or email them at info@BarryCullen.com. Speaking of Barry Cullen Chevrolet, right now they have a summer upgrade event at Barry Cullen Chevrolet dealership. Get yourself a 2024 Trailblazer, 5.49% financing for up to 84 months. More details at barrycullen.com. Live with CDP merchandise will be coming. I am working on getting some new shirts, so I will have them out hopefully in the next couple weeks as well. Also, guys, you can follow me on TikTok at Live with CDP. Yes, I've been on TikTok for 4 years, and I want to say thank you to my 2,400 plus subscribers on TikTok. You can check out all my media work that I post on TikTok and my promos for my next shows. StreamYard is the official live stream provider of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment talk show. If you're into webinars or podcasting, check out StreamYard.com. And if you're a business and you do a lot of webinars or podcasting or live streaming, etc., StreamYard.com, and contact their sales department as well. And I've been with StreamYard now for 4 years, and I give them a thumbs up. Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment talk show. The audio version is on iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Spotify for podcasters, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Pocket Cast, Spotify, Castbox, LinkedIn, Pandora, Tuned In, and now available on YouTube Music. So make sure you type in Live with CDP Sports Talk on YouTube Music and hit that subscribe notification. And Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show is on Buzzsprout as well. Finally, guys, you can email or text Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show at cpame19@gmail.com or text the show at 519-820-7188. Any comments, questions, suggestions, any feedback would be greatly appreciated as well. And you guys can also follow me on Facebook, Twitter, X, Threads, Instagram, and please subscribe to my YouTube channel. And I'm also on LinkedIn as well. And before we wrap this up, guys, I have a final comment from Paula Jane Newman, my guest. Thank you for having me on my show. Hey, Paula, it was a blast having you on my show today. I always love talking to my guests and listening to their stories. And I really appreciate you giving me over an hour of your time. And you definitely have an open invite to come back on my show again. And everybody, you can check out her website at paulajanenewman.com as well as her YouTube channel. And I will put her other meditation group on here as well. If you're interested in the world of meditation, check out awaremeditation.com as well. And that's about it, guys, for my show today. Again, I want to say special thanks to Paula Jane Newman for coming on, and I'm looking forward to my next show tomorrow night, August 27th at 7 p.m. Again with my special guest, Daveen Kerr, a trilingual stand-up comedian and multidiscipline artist as well. And I will have a small talk podcast show this Thursday night at 7 o'clock with Marlene Sharp and myself with her special guest, Jenna Rosenberg, who is the CEO of her own company called GenCom. And then the next Argo Bounce Live audio show will be this weekend, the date and the time to be determined as well. So again, thank you to Paula Jane Newman for coming on. And I want to say thank you, everybody, for watching this live streamed and on audio platforms and, of course, on WQEE 99.1 FM, sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet dealership here in Guelph. Hope everybody has a great night, and we'll see you back here tomorrow night for another edition of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show on WQEE 99.1 FM.